Remember Cliff Young. Cliff Young, an unlikely hero. He's not well known outside of Australia or running circles, but he did change the face of marathons. In 1983, 61-year-old Australian farmer from Beech Forest, Cliff Young entered the world's most grueling marathon race, the inaugural Sydney to Melbourne Westfield ultramarathon, which was 544 miles or 875 kilometers. That's 1 mile short of running from Springfield, Missouri to Temple, Texas. That's 1 mile short of running from Paris to Berlin. That's less than 1 mile short from Panama City to Chinandega, Nicaragua. That's less than 2 miles short from Akita, Japan to Niihama, Japan. That's 7 miles more than the distance from Mumbai, India to Jabalpur, India. That's 4 miles more than the distance from Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo to Cocoa Beach, Gabon. That's 2 miles more than the distance from Vancouver, BC, Canada to Whitla, Alberta, which is just west of Medicine Hat. That's 2 miles more than the distance from Montreal, Quebec to Castalia, Ohio, USA. He finished the route in record time for such a long race. 5 days, 15 hours, and 4 minutes. Why am I making such a big deal of this story? It's really simple, actually. With no formal training or wealthy sponsor, he did the impossible and won a grueling ultramarathon. Because nobody said he couldn't do it. His style of running is known as the Cliff Young Shuffle because it uses so little energy. 2 years previous, he entered the Adidas Sun Run and the Melbourne Marathon in 1979. And in 1982, he attempted to break Siegfried Bauer's record run of 1,000 miles in 11 days and 23 hours. But he had to quit partway through the attempt. He was well loved in his hometown of Beech Forest and, of course, in Australia. And there is a website devoted to him, quirkyaustralia.com/Cliff-Young. Again, why make such a big deal out of a potato farmer? At the end of the race, he did this. According to Mental Floss, the closest runner lagged 10 hours behind him. The sexagenarian was awarded a $10,000 cash prize, but he was never in it for the money. Instead, he gave every penny to the next 5 competitors to cross the line. He ran for the love of it, not for the money or fame. In 1908, a teacher of English literature from a small English grammar school in Gateshead, England, embarked on a marathon like Cliff did. With no advanced degree or financial backing, he set out on a grand journey to find the true author behind the Shakespeare name. John Thomas Looney was just as dedicated to his research as Cliff was in not accepting the prize money in the marathon. He was honest about it. His marathon was to discover the true author of the plays and poems bearing the Shakespeare name. Like many lovers of the works before him, he saw no connection between the Stratford man's life and the content of the writing. He faced ridicule from scholars and peers, yet like Cliff, he continued his intellectual race without hesitation. By working backwards from the evidence in the writing by Shakespeare, he uncovered 18 traits the writers had. The criteria was dictated by the content of the plays and poems. The first list of special characteristics were: he was a matured man of recognized genius, apparently eccentric and mysterious, of intense sensibility, a man apart, unconventional, not adequately appreciated, of pronounced and known literary tastes, an enthusiast in the world of drama, a lyric poet of recognized talent, of superior education, classical, the habitual associate of educated people. The second list included that he was a man of feudal connections, a member of the higher aristocracy, connected with Lancastrian supporters, an enthusiast for Italy, a follower of sport, including falconry, a lover of music, loose and improvident in money matters, doubtful and somewhat conflicting in his attitude to women, of probably Catholic leanings but touched with skepticism. From that list, he researched every potential candidate he could find who would match all of those traits. What makes his discovery so valuable is that he had no particular candidate in mind. He approached the problem with an open mind. He let the evidence speak for itself, guiding him in his marathon. He ran the road where it led him. What makes it all the more remarkable is that the First World War was raging for much of the time he was working on this problem. There were restrictions on travel and rationing of fuel and food, yet he persevered just like Cliff did in his marathon, not knowing whether he was going to win or what he was going to end up with at the end. No large publisher would accept his manuscript for publication despite doing years of meticulous research. One publisher was interested, but only if Looney would change his name and adopt a pseudonym. This he would not do, in deference to his name and his ancestors. He was proud of the Looney name, despite the connotations it brought on. William Heinemann, the head of the publishing company that still bears the name, was interested, but one of his senior editors objected to Looney's findings. Heinemann suggested to Cecil Palmer that he publish the book. 2 years after the guns were silent, Palmer brought out the book, Shakespeare Identified, by J. Thomas Looney. Palmer took out ads, sent out review copies, and spared no expense promoting the book. Review copies were sent to 47 major and minor trade publications, periodicals, and newspapers. This list is collated from Shakespeare Revolutionized, published in 2021 by James A. Warren. The list of publications includes some of the most important then, and some are still important. They're the ones listed in red. We have Athenaeum, Birmingham Daily Gazette, Christian Science Monitor, Daily Telegraph, Evening Telegraph, Irish Times, Leeds Intelligencer, Manchester Guardian, New Statesman, Pall Mall Gazette, Saturday Review, Scotsman, Spectator, Sunday Times, and the all-important Times Literary Supplement, which still publishes reviews of important books today. The book was Looney's life's work, yet he never sought to make this quest at all. He was merely dissatisfied with the standard story of the businessman from Stratford who made good. There were no plausible links between the records of the small-town businessman and the plays attributed to him. Not one. The same time Cecil Palmer published the book, a small American publisher also took a chance and put it out. Neither edition was a bestseller, but a small group of influential public figures and eminent scholars was convinced that he was right. Early Looney supporters included the following: Sigmund Freud, no need to introduce him; Gerald Rendell, who was the principal of University College Liverpool; Mortimer J. Adler, who was the creator of the Great Book series and noted scholar and lecturer; Louis P. Benezet, U.S. education reformer and writer. Many of Benezet's achievements and ideas are still being used today. Marjorie Bowen, the best-selling American writer; Orson Welles, influential stage and film director and actor; Esther Singleton, best-selling U.S. writer; Christmas Humphreys, prominent English barrister and writer; Charles Wisner Barrow, prestigious U.S. art critic and documentary film director. All of these people were early Looney supporters. He had decisively discovered the identity of the man who wrote the most sublime works in English, which is why the full title of the book is Shakespeare Identified in Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. Looney was essentially the Cliff Young of Shakespearean studies. They were both two unassuming and unlikely heroes who changed the face of their respective marathon sessions. Looney discovering this man. Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, was Shakespeare. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.